Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. This is Mr. Shakespeare again with you on Valentine's Day, 14th of, I was going to say September, but it isn't. It's 14th of February, 2025. I am joined, as usual, by psychic medium and remote viewer, Liz Valentine Cross. How are you doing today, Liz?
Happy Valentine's. Yes, I'm just gonna try and get through the day with all the kids high on sugar.
Yeah,
Right? Because it makes for a very tiring day. Yeah. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm good.
Oh, great.
I noticed my on my transit charts because obviously I do them for myself as well. My transits have not been good these past couple of months, but they start going better after this weekend, and then certainly after the 19th, 20th, they do very well for the next. Certainly, well, I'm just looking towards the end of March at the moment, but yeah, so all good in the hood, as they say.
All
Right.
good in the hood. Yeah. And if anybody wonders what we're talking about, we're
Oh yeah.
talking about Mr. Shakespeare's transit charts that it's bespoke. You do it for us and you pick a load of different subjects and stocks and shares and ETFs and all kinds of stuff. And you give us charts every month. So thank you for that. Those are all listed on the Discord.
They are. Okay. We are going to probe a couple of economists who have passed.
Mm.
One of them, well, they're both famous actually for different things. But we'll start with the American guy, Milton Friedman.
Mhm.
And the reason we're going to do that is because we were having a discussion off camera and we were thinking, why hasn't everything sort of gone up? Trump's now in power. And I think it's a case of, buy the rumor, sell the news. And I think back in September, this is what I said earlier on. So back in September last year, when some people and obviously the mainstream media were culpable in this because they were pushing the Harris Trump ticket like sorry, Harris Biden ticket like anything. Um, and a lot of people were buying into that, including the markets. And I think then once it became obvious that they were not going to win, the market started turning positive, and then of course by the time Trump did win in the first week in November, then of course, markets were sort of now into the rumor side of what Trump was going to do when he was inaugurated. And we had a couple of months of, all sorts of speculations about all things that were going on. And I think the markets were reasonably buoyant at the time. Now he's been inaugurated, that part of it's over. There is no speculation other than the fact that he can now do certain things. And he has done certain things. But has he, I said to Liz, he released the people that were wrongfully imprisoned for January 6th, but does that affect the economy? No. He bought a guy back recently from Russia. Does that help the economy? No. Lots of things that he's done, is very good. Some would argue that some are maybe a little bit overstretching. I don't know, but they don't necessarily help the economy. The economy runs the whole of the financial situation, uh, financial services, financial uh, globe, and everything runs on confidence. If
It
there's no
does.
confidence, people don't spend money. If there's confidence, people spend money. So the point of the probe today is we're going to speak to a couple of economists who have been instrumental in our current system over the years and have certainly been very vocal over the years. Um, about where they see this is going, where is confidence, when is confidence coming back? Can we isolate it to an event or a reason? I mean, what's in store? So, Liz, we'll start with Milton Friedman,
Okay.
who was an American economist who passed away November 2006 by the looks of it here. So we need you to get a connection with him, please.
I do have a great connection. This is just to sort of blow my own trumpet a little bit here. Um, Not that I'm not a humble person because I am, but we predicted this. Okay. If you remember, months and months ago. You guys have to pay attention to the mind probes, okay? You remember when we probed Trump months and months ago, and you asked what was the one thing that he was going to focus on the most, right? And
Right.
what did we get? Stamping out corruption.
Yeah.
That was the number one answer. That was his main focus. And we didn't maybe probe it enough to say, well, how are you going to do this? What are you going to do? Blah, maybe we should have. Not that it would have made any difference, but he's going to stamp out corruption. Well, what is he doing? Like
He's
no
stamping out.
president
Well,
ever
yeah, he is.
before. I had to
No,
say
no,
that.
no. We did probe it. You're right. It is. Anyway, right. We are. Let's try and have a chat with Milton Friedman, please.
Okay, I've got him here.
Okay, what does he think of the current economy in the United States today?
What do you think of the current economy in the United States today? It's terrible.
Okay,
It could be doing a lot better.
why is it not doing a lot better?
Why
If
is
he
it not?
if he had to name five things of why this economy currently is not doing a lot better, what would he say?
What would you say if you had to name five things? Lack of income,
Okay,
the inflation.
okay,
It's not balanced. There's a total imbalance between the income and the cost of living.
right,
What else? Most people are in extreme amounts of debt. They're underwater financially.
yeah.
They can barely pay the debt. What else? Jobs which were previously very respectable, their pay scale is sinking. They're not keeping up. So when he said that to me, it's like teachers, nurses, the essential people in the workforce that we have to have. They're not being paid enough.
Right. Well, obviously that's down to inflation of the currency. I mean, if you go back to 1950, in the 50s, a man could go to work, a wife could stay at home and bring up the children. A man's salary was enough to pay for food, lodging, mortgage, whatever, housing, the car, and everything. One salary could do that. Now, two salaries barely do it. In fact, in some cases, they do not. So, salaries have not kept up, wages of salaries have not kept up with prices, but prices have been affected by all the cheap money that's been poured into
Mm.
the market over the last few years. I mean, we had 0% interest rate for years.
Mm.
I mean, that just, that encourages people to just spend, 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 doesn't it? You know? And
Well, people are way underwater, he says, financially. They've overmortgaged, overbought, too much. There's just too much debt. We never used to have that level of debt.
no, well, America used to be on the gold standard prior to 72, 73. So, of course, you know, there was no inflation as such. Not really. You can look at the St. Louis Feds. They're the best place for charts and things like that, for inflation charts. Have a look at the inflation chart for the US dollar from the Second World War till, Nixon took everybody off the gold standard. There was almost zero inflation. And then it just went skywards because it's unbacked. I mean, you can do what you want. People can just borrow what they want, including governments. The governments, I mean, look at the amount of money. Now, Trump is trying to sort some of this out, but look at the billions that have been wasted, you know, and just pulled out and spent on all sorts of things. All of that is highly inflationary to the currency.
Let's
So does
ask
he?
this question. Will we ever get the national debt down? Not completely, no. Will Trump's term in office be able to get rid of some of the national debt? I don't feel that I'm not asking that question correctly. Okay, because what he's showing me is like the debt calculator going up and up and up and up. And it's not that they're going to throw money into that hole.
Yeah,
What
but
they're
the
doing
problem
is
is it's
they,
the interest payable on the debt, which is the problem.
hmm,
Will Trump have any kind of um, backing for the debt with gold? Because there is talk about it.
will Trump have any type of backing for the debt with gold? I'm getting Bitcoin.
Okay.
Now, what he was showing me is they can't just throw money at this hole, but what they're doing, he says, is they've got a separate fund and they want to outweigh the debt with this separate fund, like
Okay.
have a separate account.
All right.
Because if
But
you're
yeah,
just throwing money into the hole, and this guy's an economist, if you're just throwing money into the hole, maybe you understand this, it's going nowhere. It's just burning through the money. You can't
cool.
just throw the money at the hole.
Right. But if they want to back the debt and and they're going to use Bitcoin, then Bitcoin is going to be priced many, 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 many multiples more than it is now.
Is Bitcoin going to be priced higher than what it is now? I think in 2 years' time, he's saying, what in 2 years' time? You're going to see a massive jump because again, they're doing this by cutting government wastage, fraud, abuse. What about the IRS? Are they going to go after the IRS? I'm getting overall a no. So they're
Oh,
not, are they going to pick apart the IRS? I mean, they're going to streamline it. They want to make them work smarter instead of harder is what he's telling me. But ultimately, so he's not going to demolish the IRS? No. He may make a lot of policy changes. Is he going to freeze the IRS? No. Is he going to shut the IRS down? Now, I've got another question. Is he going? This guy's great, by the way. Good job on picking him to channel. Um, he's very good. What about the National Institute of Health? Is he going to freeze? I feel he is going to freeze. Now, Liz, why did you ask that question? Well, I'll tell you, because before I started becoming a full-time psychic, I worked in medical research for a leading university, and that's where they get most of their research income from, right? And most of these universities get their research money from there. Now, they're shaking in their shoes at the thought of what Trump is going to do because if he starts freezing the NIH and if he starts, pulling the funding for these research studies until he figures out what's going on, they're all furloughed. They're out of a job with the university. And there's been a lot of talk. We're in like a group chat and they're scared to death. So let's ask this question. Is he going to pull a lot of the research funding from the NIH? Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
okay, so I mean, Trump's on a cost-cutting mission at the moment and trying to get better value for money, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, and I'm sure he'll be fairly successful in cutting it, but at the end of the day, he is not really going to make a massive dent in the total debt the US is in. So they can either inflate the debt away, which is what they normally do. They turn on the money printers to basically extend and pretend. There is no way that the United States can ever pay off the debt. Um, and to be frank, they don't want to pay it off. There's no desire to pay it off. The desire is to maybe cut down on the interest payments, and for that they have to have the interest payments lower, the interest rate lower, and to have the interest rate lower, there has to be more economy doing well that you know what I mean, so that they can reduce interest rates. A lot of people are thinking they're going to reduce interest rates this year. Trump even came out and said it, I think, on a tweet yesterday. Um, I have my own ideas about that. I have a funny feeling the Fed's going to put the rate up towards the end of the year.
Ooh, let's ask, is the Fed going to put the rate up towards the end of the year? No. Why do
Well,
you feel that way? Tell us.
Um, this has got more to do with trying to stymie the UK and the European Union. Um, I think they want to break the shackles from the UK and the European Union. They definitely want to break the euro dollar, which is all the dollars created outside of the US. Um, I don't know. I think that, you know, people don't realize how much influence and power the City of London has over the US. Um, it never used to be that way, but
Does
they
it?
have. Oh my God, yes,
But a
absolutely.
lot of the banking moved, or they were
Well, it's
talking
not
about
just the bank.
leaving.
It's look. This goes back. This goes. This goes back to the time of the Civil War. People forget that, the only reason America, the Union, um, was able to stay together, the North and the South, it wasn't because of slavery or anything like that. It's because England and France wanted them broken up and were quite prepared to come and invade them and do that work. Yeah. England and France wanted two smaller conglomerate of states, the North and the South. They didn't want a great big United States, the union of all of them. And they basically set warships and they were going to, and at the time, don't forget, Britain still ruled the waves. And do you know who saved America?
No. Who?
Russia.
Oh my God. How?
Well, because what the Tsar at the time sent his Pacific fleet to go and sit off the coast of, the western seaboard, California, Oregon, that type, and the Atlantic fleet he sent to send off the coast of Boston and New York. And the Russians stayed there for 6 months. And if it wasn't for the Russians saving America, America wouldn't be what it was today. England would have had total control of it. They would have. I mean, you think England wanted America people to go and escape and do what they did in America? No, of course they don't. England and America were, at loggerheads for many years. So I think this is why America now under Trump, I think they want to pull away from England and Great Britain and from the European Union. I mean, not the European Union. I don't think he likes those, but just the European countries that have caused problems in the past. You know,
Okay, so let's ask this question. Is that on the agenda to pull away from Europe? Ooh, yes, it is.
bingo.
Europe is, according to Friedman here, Europe is pulling America down, is what he's saying.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's got America involved in a war with Russia. We're using proxy Ukraine.
So here's what I'm getting. I'm getting that it's not about breaking away from Europe completely.
Oh no.
It's about making Europe subservient to the USA.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what
they'll be
Friedman
happy with
is.
that.
No, but it's about making Europe bow down to the USA and respect it. What he's saying to me, Friedman is saying, and to respect it for the superpower that it is always supposed to be, even though it's not at the moment. And Europe think that we're on the level, they're on a level playing field
They're
with
not.
the USA.
They're not. They're
But
nowhere near.
in
They're
their
nowhere near
minds,
the even. Look, even though America is down and all that, it's still way above anything in Europe or the whole of Europe combined.
but psychologically, a lot of the leaders in Europe believed, certainly in the past 4 years, that America was on the level and the trajectory that Europe is on.
Right, but that's because of the previous administration. The confidence is going to go to America and disappear from Europe and probably Britain as well.
Mm.
I
So
mean,
let's ask that question. Is the confidence going to diminish as will the USA gain its superpower status back eventually, but it's going to take the entire 4 years Okay. And what happens then? Does the confidence then go into the USA and diminish elsewhere around the world? Mostly, yes. What about the confidence in Europe, the spending confidence? Will that be the same as it is now? No, that is going to be depleted. You were right. It's going down.
Hmm. Yeah.
So how does that bode for European stock markets? They're going to
Bad, I would think. I mean, don't forget, Europe has shot itself in the foot big time, especially Germany. Unless the AfD get into power and they get rid of these people there, the reason why Germany has been an industrial powerhouse, apart from their work ethic, which is excellent, but the reason why they have been an industrial powerhouse is because they've had cheap Soviet and now Russian gas and energy, but they've cut themselves off from it. They blew up the pipeline, Nord Stream, and now they're celebrating the fact they don't have to buy Russian gas and energy. Russia doesn't mind; they'll just sell it to the Far East. There's lots of developing, and Africa or wherever else. I mean, there's lots of developing nations that will buy cheap Russian gas. But now Germany and the rest of Europe they're paying three times what they did. You don't need to be an economist to have to know that that is a very, very stupid thing to do. Okay.
Right. So let's ask this question. Will Germany and the other European nations ever rejoin forces or ever sign up to the Russian gas again? They will, but it's so far out in the future.
It's not a
So
problem.
let's ask Putin then. Then let's ask him, have you sustained any economic hardship from Europe not buying the gas? I mean, they have. Was it substantial? At times, yes. Have you managed to divert the gas into other areas and other countries are making up for that shortfall? It's not 100% one for one.
No,
Okay, they're still running at a deficit from the Europeans not buying the gas. I feel wherever they're selling the gas to, it's more expensive. Whereas Europe was what Putin is telling me, it was convenient.
of course. Europe's on the doorstep.
Right.
Yeah, it
But
costs more. It costs more to ship it further away. Yes. Okay.
so let's ask this question. Over time, how long is it going to be
Hmm.
until Europe signs back up to Russia? I think it's going to be quite a few years. I'm still getting that. And what about the end of the war? Will that stop the sanctions? I mean, I don't feel that the sanctions are going to be dropped, certainly not by Europe anytime soon. They're really going to hold a grudge against Russia
Of course.
for this war. And whether you are for or against that, that's what they're going to do. Now, with regards to resolving the war, will Zelensky accept the terms? He has to. They're going to force Zelensky into a corner, what Friedman is telling me, and they're going to force him to accept a deal. And the only way they're going to do that is by cutting him off financially. He will have no choice because right now, Zelensky is saying, I'm not prepared to give over any bit of land to Russia. I'm not going to allow them to take control. I'm not going to sign up to a peace deal. If I'm not part of the peace deal, I understand that. So what's going to happen with is Russia going to take over some regions in the Ukraine? Yes. So part of that region will that be annexed to Russia? Yes, that will go under Russian control. Will the Ukraine still be the Ukraine? Not ultimately, not ultimately, because whatever is going on in that region, and pardon my ignorance, but it's just as well because the less I know for remote viewing, the better. That I feel like that area is very strategic, and I feel like it's a money-making area. Are
Well,
they
most of
going
the
to?
East and the South have already been subsumed by Russia, and they've already voted in the elections to be Russian. They don't want to be Ukrainian. That was the area of conflict, by the way, because most of them are Russian speaking. Like 99% of them are Russian speaking. So they
Is
were
that
always going to go to Russia, of course. The other problem that Ukraine have got is that apparently there are some Polish historians in Moscow at the moment. What are they doing there? Well, they're doing there because the parts of Ukraine used to be part of Poland. And so, maybe Ukraine gets carved up. I don't know.
Oh, let's ask. Is Ukraine going to be carved up and given some to Poland? Are they going to give some to Poland? I feel like the Polish are going to have more control over what goes in and out of those borders into Ukraine. I
Yeah.
don't know what was going on in the
Well,
Ukraine, but it feels like they want more control in the area.
but anyway, we're moving way away from our
Right,
topic.
right. But it's important
It
because
is
let's
because all these
this
things are connected.
yes.
Confidence is connected everywhere. Um, um,
Well, let's ask this question. Will the end of the Ukraine Russia-Ukraine war boost the markets? Ultimately, it will. More so European markets. Will it boost the US market? It will. It will. And is that going to be immediately upon the peace deal? No. I think it's going to take time and let things settle and everything gets into position, as in Russia is going back to Russia, they're withdrawing troops, Ukraine is starting to rebuild, but it will increase the confidence because of the stability in the region, he's telling me.
you got to be very circumspect about this. Anyway, we're now moving out of the age of Pisces, which is the age of all the industrial age, and we're now moving into the age of Aquarius, and we're now moving into the information ages. And all these things have to be resolved. We can't have, this is why all this corruption and everything, they're going after it. We can't have all that stuff in the age of Aquarius and in the information age. We have to literally purge ourselves of all of this stuff, which
Mm.
actually, in a way, does reduce confidence. If the American public has confidence, we know that they like to spend, and hopefully they will start spending again. So, and then
So let's ask this. Will the confidence be increased in 2025? I feel it's going to be after the summer. I'm getting that so strongly. Are we going to have more disposable income in our pockets in 2025? No, no. It's still going to be quite tight. Penny pitching. What about getting rid of the US penny? That's going to save a load of money. What about the Department of Education? What are they going to do? They're going to start getting rid of the money wasting, according to Friedman, in the Department of Education. Is this ultimately going to hurt our school? It's going to affect the schools. Is it going to hurt the schools? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It's going to strip some of these schools down. Are they going to move into a more choice system? And the reason I ask that question is because the state in which I live is moving towards a more choice-based system where instead of the federal government or instead of the state paying the federal government gives the state money for education, and then, you have to go to your zone school. What they're doing here is they're now just going to give you a voucher, right, for the amount of money or a partial amount of money that the state or would give to the school for your attendance at that school. Now they're going to say, well, you can pick and choose what school you want to go to. So if you want to send your children to a private school, here's a voucher for several $1,000s to help pay for that tuition. So are we going to see that across the USA? No, I'm getting a no on that. I'm surprised by that because at least it would give somebody a choice. But
The
no, what
I
would
mean,
happen?
I do agree with that to a point. The only problem with that is that, like everything. It's all very well supporting these state schools, and the doctrines that are coming out of them are almost Marxist in what they're doing. And so those need to go. But if there's only one or two schools that are on the straight and narrow that are teaching, meritocracy and things like that, they can't take all the pupils. Everybody can't go there. You can't have 20,000 people suddenly all decide, I want that school, please. you know, because that's the problem. You will only pick the very best, and not everybody can go there. Not because then becomes a money thing, it's because they can't physically accommodate everybody. Anyway, I think as AI takes over, more and more people will realize that going to a school, especially anything that run by the guy, is a pointless waste of time. You can learn at home. The amount of people that have been taken out of school in England that I've been hearing about taking, just because they don't want a continuation of all these hard left politics being, foisted upon their kids. So interesting. Anyway, let's just ask Milton Friedman a couple of last questions before we let him go. Um, is he aware of the crypto market? I mean, he's mentioned Bitcoin, but is he generally aware of the crypto market?
Yes, he is.
Okay, does he know what I mean by the term altcoin or the alt season? So an alternative, every coin that's not Bitcoin is part of the altcoin, you know.
Yes, he understands that.
Okay, when does alt season start? Ask him.
When does alt season start? Is it going to be this year? Yes. When does it start?
This month,
Is it,
next month, April?
is it starting in February? No, I feel March.
Oh, good. Good.
Now it's going to be up and down.
Of course, but there has to be a season for it because we're having Bitcoin and everything else. Bitcoin can't just move up into the stratosphere and have no effect on everything else. There are other coins. A lot of them have a lot more use case and are faster on chain than Bitcoin, for example. Um, okay. Right. Let's push him to the side for a minute. Thank you. And let's pick up on an English economist, John Maynard Keynes.
Okay.
Now, he has a very different view on economics. He Keynesian economics. So let's have a chat with him. What does he think currently of the economic situation in A, America, B, United Kingdom, C, Europe?
Okay, sorry. Let's try that one again. What do you think about the
Current economic, oh, excuse me, current economic situation in America.
it's gotten so far. So basically he's sending me a visual. It's so low, it's worse than ever anticipated.
Right.
And what he's saying is it's going to take a very long time to recover from this. Even after the Trump presidency, what is going to be very important after the Trump presidency, he is telling me, is that someone continues this legacy of stamping out wasteful spending. You've
Right.
got to get to a point where you're so used to, or the public are so used to things running efficiently that they start to take notice when things are not running efficiently, right? You have to reinstall the confidence back into the public's hands. And what he's saying to me, so that they speak up and they don't allow all of this corruption. There has to be transparency, he's saying. Governments used to be, back in the day, he's saying, totally transparent. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. Let's take a vote if this is the correct way. That was when, the population was smaller, he's saying. It was more manageable. But now they do what they want to do when they want to do it. And that is where all of this wasteful spending has gotten out of control.
Mm.
You've got to reinstall, again, he's saying you have to reinstall the confidence back into the public sphere that
Right.
they are empowered, They can speak up.
Okay. In his book in 1936, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, he advanced the idea that he said that government should spend more and more money when people do not have the work. He advocated that the government should borrow money and give people jobs. Um, Now, does he still think that's a good idea? Because the government have been borrowing money like anything, and they haven't actually given anybody any jobs or done anything like that.
No, he has totally changed his tune now, right?
Is he more on with the Austrian side of economics, the so-called Austrian side?
Are you more on the Austrian side? I mean, he really doesn't want to choose a side. You
But
just have to go with what makes sense. Now, at the time that he put that out, it was really about the people not being plunged into absolute extreme poverty.
right, okay.
You
So
didn't want
he
a
doesn't think
country
he doesn't think that's a necessary thing to do now in 2025.
in 2025. Do you think that's necessary? No, he doesn't think that it's necessary. So, do you believe in universal basic income? Yes, he does. Would you not think that universal basic income is the same thing? No, because was he about printing money? It was almost like the money just had to come out of
Well,
nowhere and just
when
be
he
given to
wrote
the
this,
people.
America was still on the gold standard. Um, So, it wasn't a case of just arbitrarily printing money. His idea was the government would borrow money, because governments can borrow money, obviously, against, they can issue the gilts or the treasuries. And then they would use that to stimulate employment or something like that, or pay, or just pay people. I mean, that doesn't ever seem to be a good idea to me, but
And he realizes that that was wrong.
right, okay, fair enough.
Because when he was on the earth plane, he's saying he wanted the rich to pay for the poor. And
Yeah,
now we know that doesn't work. He's telling me it doesn't work. It has to be the rich, the businesses that create the jobs for the poor,
exactly.
not the government.
Right, but how many, the whole Keynesian way of economics affected so many people that a lot of people believed that and practiced it. I mean, it's going, I mean, it's going down the road of pure socialism, and we know that doesn't work. It's never worked anywhere. You have to, at the end of the day, you have to, these people with the money, they have to create the businesses that will employ the people. At the end of the day, okay, let's go back to Henry Ford. Henry Ford, when he didn't invent the automobile, but he invented the production line. He made sure that everybody had enough money to buy one of his cars, who then, worked in his factory. He paid them better. They had money. They could buy one of his cars. That was part of the deal. That kept the thing going. It's a cycle, you know.
Mm,
Okay.
yes.
When does he think confidence will return to England, the United Kingdom?
When do you think confidence will return to the United Kingdom? Not till after the 2040s.
Right. What does he think of the current Labour government led by Keir Starmer?
What do you think about the current Labour government led by Keir Starmer? What do you think about it? It's going downhill very fast. It's zero confidence in the Labour government.
That's, I think that's about true. I have not come across anybody, even if they voted for them now, that has anything good to say. It's either neutral to down and negative, downright negative. I don't hear any positive things about this government now.
What will happen with that Labour government? Will they stay in power? Yes, they will stay in power. The
Cool.
only way you're going to get rid of them is to vote them out. And that's
Right.
Keir Starmer as well. Yes, that's Keir Starmer as well. Is his own, but I feel towards the election, when the Labour government realizes that he's not going to get them the votes that they
Mm.
need to stay in power, that's when they'll turn on Keir Starmer. But I feel, is he going to make a comeback? Is he going to make a turnaround? No, he's not. And he doesn't care if you hate him. And now part of that is good for leadership, right? I mean, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. And whether people love you or hate you, I understand that.
Yeah,
He cares. So, what is he going to do? He's going to stay for the time being.
of course. Well, he has to do what he has to do, but the important thing, of course, is who's he doing it for? Because he's certainly not doing it for the United Kingdom. Yeah,
Is he doing it for the United Kingdom? No,
no, can't be.
I feel what I'm getting from this Keynes is that the Europeans are controlling him.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
They're
WEF.
wanting the UK to rejoin the European Union,
Yeah, yeah,
and they're using Keir Starmer to do so. Now, that is what he's telling me.
yeah. I agree with that. I think he's right. I think that's exactly right. But Starmer isn't strong enough to just, he's no Trump, he's no Musk or anybody like that. He has no backbone when it comes to anything like that. So, um, he's a very weak man from that point of view. But he's a he's an ideologue technocrat. He's just going ahead doing, he doesn't look. They've got a massive majority in Parliament, so they can't be voted out. Nothing really can happen to them, you know. Through the laziness of so many voters. He got through with 20% of the vote. So, a lot of people were disillusioned by the previous Conservative government, mainly because they weren't really Conservative. And so they would not vote for Conservative and they wouldn't vote for Labour. So Labour, with the people who just voted for them, managed to get themselves in. And what a mess they've made of it since they've been there. But that's probably all by design, at the end of the day.
Is it all by design? I mean, ultimately, listen, he's being controlled by Europe.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when will the USA see confidence come back into the economy, like into the markets, the stock markets in particular? Is that going to be 2025? No, I feel it's going to be towards the end of this year, going into next year. When we start, because how this all came about was you and I were having a discussion offline. We need more money, new money coming into the markets.
Yeah.
So will this confidence bring new money into the markets? Now, new money, an influx of new money into the markets, that's not really going to come till when? 27. So sort of the end of 26 going into 2027. It's going to take how long for us to see more disposable income in our wallets or in our bank accounts? It's going to take a good 18 months. This is a big, big problem. Are they going to print money? No. I don't feel like they want to print money. I don't think that's the solution. Do they understand that that's not the solution? Yes, they understand that.
Well, they might understand it, but every single financial crisis that's ever been since the Second World War has always been resolved by money printing, which is
Mm,
why we have so much debt now.
mm.
They've never
Wow.
they've never not turned the printers on. Yeah.
Are
So
they going to turn the printers on? No. Instead, what they're doing this time round is they're cutting the wasteful spending. But again, it's going into that money pit of debt. It's going to be, they're going to sort of, they want it to outweigh, and I guess this is the reserve, maybe. Yes, they want it to outweigh the debt. You have to build, in order to make your company or your country, he's saying, valuable, you have to build the reserve to hold much more than the debt.
right, but I mean the debt is somewhere, I don't know, 30, 40 trillion dollars what at the moment. How are they going to build? I mean, look, if they revalue gold and revalue Bitcoin, for example, you know,
Mhm.
I mean, even revaluing gold could to match the debt. I mean, it doesn't have to be the price it is now. That could be the paper price. I mean, the physical price, they could have, 100, 200, $300,000 an ounce. So let's ask him this. Is there any plans that does he believe that that America will use gold to back some or all of of their national debt?
But does America have any plans to back and their currency, right?
Well, no, no, just the debt. I mean,
Just the debt with gold. Yes.
when would that happen? This year?
When does that happen this year? More next year.
Okay, that's interesting because there's quite a bit of chat on some of the forums about that happening. So, on the old adage, where there's smoke, there's fire, that type of thing. But interesting.
Mm.
Mm.
All right. Any more questions for either of these?
No, no, I don't think so. We went hugely off track as usual. So
Well, I don't know. I feel like it's all relevant.
it is all relevant, but yeah, we brought in a lot of other. It's yes, it's a good roundup video.
Thank you. Excellent idea.